Andrew Bustamante, former CIA spy, talks Bitcoin tokenization and the value of digital assets. We also have a clip here from Eric Trump talking about everything will be tokenized. If you're not sure who Andrew Bustamante is, he's a former covert CIA officer, decorated U.S. Air Force combat veteran, and graduate of the United States Air Force Academy. So I actually love this guy. I watch him on YouTube a lot and talking about Bitcoin and crypto. So let's get into it.
Cryptocurrency and decentralized cryptocurrency, if you will, right? So something decentralized like Bitcoin is only useful if people adopt Bitcoin, meaning like if storefronts adopt Bitcoin or if ATM machines adopt Bitcoin. That's the only time that Bitcoin becomes useful, is if you can actually extract the value out of the cryptocurrency that is decentralized. What we're seeing is a move towards centralized digital currencies, also cryptocurrencies, but centralized. The digital dollar, digital crypto, digital currencies that are already alive and well in China and across Europe, right? A centralized currency is the only currency that any government ever is going to actually adopt and reward, because governments need to make money off of their centralization of that currency. They need to control how much is coming in, how much is going out, the value of that digital currency, and they need to make, like, you know, 0.5%, 0.02% off of every transaction, because that just creates free money for the government.
Also, interesting point that I just popped into my head. You know how much abuse happens with the US dollar and illegal print shops, right? There's a whole Secret Service division that is dedicated to going after people in foreign countries having printers and printing old hundreds and counterfeit, right? If they have a CBDC, how are you going to counterfeit that? That is also something I'd imagine that governments are looking at combating, so they are the ones only that can mint or burn and redeem these central bank digital currency issued assets.
Something that's totally decentralized completely works against all of the incentives for government. So the government would, if not fully block a digital, uncontrolled, uncentralized cryptocurrency, they would for sure never incentivize their populations to use that currency. And I understand all the people whose panties are in an uproar right now about Bitcoin, but they know it too. They've been investing in Bitcoin since, what, the early 2000s, and you still can't really use your Bitcoin anywhere. There's a handful of ATMs in any given city that will give you cash for your Bitcoin. All you can really do with Bitcoin is buy it and sell it. And you can only sell it for what people are willing to pay for it, which drastically varies in price, even though it's strong right now. Like November of last year, it was half of what it's valued at right now. So that's the challenge with cryptocurrency. Will it destroy the US dollar? I think digital currency is the wave of the future, especially if you tie digital currency to the blockchain and make it fully auditable. But will Bitcoin kill the US dollar? The US dollar is always going to be more valuable than Bitcoin because it's so much more useful. And I already know what people are bitching about right now. How can you say the US dollar is more valuable than Bitcoin? Because the US dollar has the staying power of multiple governments to back it. Bitcoin could literally end tomorrow.
Wow, there's so many things here that just music to my ears. You'd imagine that if Bitcoin's true use case, right, was the future of the financial system, why is no government outside of, you know, maybe a handful of small countries that kind of do illegal stuff adopting it, right? El Salvador, you start to be like, oh, you're partnered with El Salvador, Michael Saylor, Jack Mallers. Ooh, okay. I just can't see it, right? You could go spend your Bitcoin at Steak and Shake or whatever it is, right? You can wait 5 minutes for the transaction to go through. Maybe your food will be ready by the time they say, oh yeah, you finally paid. But this is not the future. You cannot have 1 billion people using Bitcoin. The network will collapse in on itself. Transactions could take 100 years. Now, you could use the Lightning Network on Bitcoin, but who really is adopting that at scale? I don't know anybody. Now, there could be institutions that obviously I'm not looking at or paying attention to, but when you're talking about a cryptocurrency that is accepted globally for not just a store of value, that has true purpose through tokenization of financial products, or a company like Ripple, who is the biggest blockchain infrastructure on the planet, now we're talking, right? That's a use case that governments can get behind. That is a interoperable ledger that value can move seamlessly across the world on for little to no cost, right? You got private ledgers. You can do whatever you want. That is the future, in my opinion. And I think Mr. Bustamante here can see it as well.
We have no control over it. If everybody just decides they don't like Bitcoin anymore, tomorrow the value becomes zero.
With Bitcoin, I completely understand that being essentially digital gold, where I see both an irony and a more kind of confusing ability to predict where it's going is in the altcoins that have both strategic and utility value to them. You know, when I see things like XRP and Solana and HBAR and Ethereum, you know, Cardano, I mean, there's a handful of them that big institutions are considering replacing the SWIFT, you know, cross-border payment technology with.
My man knows what he's talking about. I like this guy. Who is this guy? I like him.
To me, that there is a weird both irony and a little troubling outlook in that it makes sense, but only from an institutionalization standpoint where your average everyday citizen doesn't even realize they're using it because it's that well integrated into big banking industry and financial networks. And so to me, the second layer of difficulty there is the faster that's implemented, the more likely it is that the top 4 or 5 big banks in this country collapse because of that decentralization aspect and an inability to make money and control that aspect. Where the irony comes in, to me, this is the whole point of crypto initially, was the decentralization aspect of it and cutting out the middleman, and, you know, me being able to pay you that fast, you know, from phone to phone without including JP Morgan Chase in that transaction. But I feel like we're on this weird tipping point or precipice of it's either going to kind of go back down the hill. I mean, it's almost like a potential avalanche that's at this peak, and it's either going to get pushed back down the hill where it's not institutionalized and there's too much ability from big financial industry to be able to squash it, or they go full nuts, completely on board it, and now it's, you know, again, it's you're sending money from me to you or vice versa, utilizing some sort of blockchain or ledger of some of these altcoins immediately, and we don't even realize we're using it because it's just embedded into the app. But the tricky part is how that would be rolled out, and now it defeats the whole purpose of why Bitcoin initially was started in the first place. So to me, it's quite a bit of uncharted territory that I'm not sure how it's going to shape.
Okay, there's a few things here that I want to talk about and address. One of the things, you're not going to be able to put crypto back in the box, okay? People, institutions have seen how much money they can save by using stablecoins or bridge assets or the tokenization of value. Like, this is the future. You have Larry Fink, who is he's the CEO of the largest financial institution with assets under management on the planet, right? Telling you the future of these financial markets is on blockchain, right? You have Jamie Dimon, Chase. They're working with 80 to 100 different blockchain companies. Now, these are different companies doing different things in the blockchain space, but you have Bank of America, right? You have Citibank. You have every large financial institution understanding how important these digital assets are. They were trying to put it in the box, yes, because they make tens of billions, hundreds of billions of dollars per year off allowing other banks to use their rails to move money. Of course, they don't want that to end. But they understand that people are going to push back regardless. And if they don't offer these services, other banks will, and they will go extinct. I don't think JP Morgan or Bank of America or Citibank, they're going anywhere anytime soon. They have been here for hundreds of years. In my opinion, they will continue to be here. They have too much money, and they are also globally, systemically important to governments all around the world. So I don't think they're going anywhere, but I think they understand the importance of the moment that we are in. And plus, you have the Trump administration basically saying crypto is here to stay. Right? We want to be the crypto capital of the world. This is the golden age of the future. It is not going anywhere, ladies and gentlemen. I do think this is a great conversation. I'm glad I played the clip live with you so I could give you my random reactions. And here is Eric Trump talking about everything will be tokenized. This is a good clip, man. This is a good clip. I was thinking when I was watching this, like, maybe the leather chairs were not the exact right choice for the interviews, because every time you move, you can hear it picked up on the mic. My brain was just fixated on that. I was trying to pay attention, but I was also like, all right.
Yeah. Well, Eric, you said you were on the first yard line when it comes to Bitcoin and crypto and this entire space. How do you see it, for instance, like reshaping real estate? Do you see the tokenization of everything, or what do you see the next 5 years?
Tokenization of everything in time. I mean, it might not all happen in the next 5 years, but listen, we're seeing a Trump Tower, right? Very famous building. Probably everybody on earth has heard of Trump Tower.
Heard of it, yeah.
In some way, shape, or form. You know, why is it if I want to put financing on this building? Why is it if I want to go take a loan? You know, I probably had the ability to go to 7 different banks that had the capability of doing a project like this. Why can't I go out to tens of millions of people around the world who adore Trump, adore our name, and offer it to them and say, listen, you know, we're going to put $500 million of financing on Trump Tower. Who wants a part of it? You raise the money, and guess what? All these people, this incredible group of people, all have a small share, a couple shares, a couple tokens of Trump Tower. Like, that's a beautiful concept. Taylor Swift puts out a new album. You know, why can't she go and why can't she sell that album and otherwise tokenize it, monetize that album, and have people bet on the success of their fan, of whoever they love, whoever they aspire to be? You're going to have tokenized movies. You're going to have tokenized artists. You're going to have tokenized real estate. You're going to have tokenized commodities. You know, there's virtually nothing. You're going to have tokenized art. You know, guess what? You want to only...
you have a lot of this stuff already, but great points.
The greatest painting ever. Guess what? You can't afford the $200 million price tag, but you can own, you know, 1/10,000th of that painting or 1/100,000th of that painting, and you can, you know, you can get the accretion of the value if it goes up, and, you know, maybe if it goes down, I think everything should be tokenized. You're seeing companies tokenized. You're seeing stocks tokenized. It's coming, and it's right around the corner. It'll give great accessibility to people who would otherwise never be able to access certain financial markets and certain asset classes for the first time. Once again, providing financial freedom that just doesn't exist.
I love that the president's son actually knows what he's talking about, right? This is unique. When you have usually the family member of a very important politician, sometimes they're kind of a dodo bird. They don't really know what they're talking about. Eric Trump seems to have his stuff together in the crypto market, and it's just great to see leveling the playing field, being able to giving access to people that are either underbanked, don't have a bank account at all, giving them the capability to get a loan, right? Send money to friends and family for cheaply, not having to pay these absorbent fees. This is all some of the utility that we're all looking forward to when we're talking about crypto adoption. Now, I did think this was interesting. E-Trade, Morgan Stanley will offer crypto services and allow customers to custody digital assets. Holy smokes. This is what we've been saying for years on this channel, and we're finally seeing it. Let's go.
Something that Robinhood has already offered. So Morgan Stanley is kind of not late to the party, but at least getting on board now.
Yeah, I think it's a sign of a more favorable regulatory environment for the banks. It might be one of the first big announcements where you see bank partnering with one of these crypto trading firms to offer access to customers. It's true that they had it with fintechs like Robinhood before, but you might see more of things like this in the new regulatory environment.
Is the risk factors here? I mean, we know this stuff can be volatile. We know it has been volatile in the past. We have no idea what it's going to be in the future, but what's the risk for a traditional company, an established company like this, offering this to clients?
Sure. I mean, you know, they offer all sorts of products to the clients, so I guess, you know, at some level, the client should be aware of the risks too. And if they have a financial advisor, presumably the financial advisor will talk to them about it. But it sounds like on E-Trade, you know, it's almost similar to Robinhood, where you're making bets on your own and making these decisions on your own a lot of the time.
Something that Robinhood has...
All right, a lot of cool things happening too here with this, guys. I'll let you go with that. I thought this was a great and fun interview to play with you guys live. Let me know what you think. If you want me to make more content like this, kind of reacting to, you know, popular... you know, what would you call this? Podcasters? Let me know. Love to do it. Have a lot of fun here. All right, guys, have a good week ahead. Aloha. Nothing in this video should be taken as financial advice. This is for entertainment purposes only. I am not a financial advisor. Please seek financial advice if you need it. Let's get back to the video.